My case underscores, it highlights the problems with having a country run by the judiciary. What we have in South Africa, with respect, is no longer a country which is run by the 400 men and women in the National Assembly.
So we are saying that there must not be an instance whereby a court will make a certain determination and then instruct Parliament to change the law to suit their interpretation.
We give judges too much powers, they end up running the country. Judges are not elected in this country.
Vuyo Zungula and former Judge John Hlophe have asserted that South Africa's governance is effectively controlled by its constitutional court judges who are not elected by the citizens. If that's the case, who is their master? The judge's impartiality is undermined by ties to white monopoly capital, WMC. These ties stem from judges or their close family members, such as spouses, children, or in-laws, holding shares or professional roles in WMC-linked corporations like Vodacom, or from the judges themselves having financial interests in these entities. Such connections create conflicts of interest, making it nearly impossible for judges to rule impartially in cases like Makate versus Vodacom. In this case, Nkosana Makate, the inventor of the Please Call Me service, has fought for over 2 decades for fair compensation, claiming our $9.4 billion, while Vodacom offered only our $47 million, which he rejected as inadequate. The prolonged delays and repeated appeals, including Vodacom's latest to the Constitutional Court in November 2024, suggest that judges with ties to WMC interests may be swayed to protect Vodacom. A substantial payout to Makate could disrupt the financial interests of WMC and its black economic empowerment, partners such as YeboYethu, Royal Bafokeng Holdings, and Thebe Investment Corporation, who benefit from Vodacom's stability. The Constitution's ambiguous wording allows judges, often trained at similar institutions, to interpret it in ways that align with WMC interests, as interpretation is inherently personal and subjective. Judges have previously reached different conclusions on the same constitutional provisions, reflecting how their personal perspectives, shaped by ties to WMC or other influences, can lead to divergent rulings. This is evident when judges, possibly driven by career ambitions or personal connections, favor powerful corporations over individuals like Makate. When a president is not aligned with WMC, especially in their final term, judges may feel emboldened to rule against parliamentary decisions, which represent the people's will, further entrenching WMC's influence. Common sense suggests that judges with family members or themselves holding shares or roles in WMC-linked entities like Vodacom cannot remain fully impartial, as these financial or personal connections, combined with subjective interpretations, naturally influence their perspective. This undermines judicial fairness and delays justice for individuals like Makate, whose claim challenges WMC and its network, perpetuating a system where corporate power overshadows the will of the people. Should judges or their families be allowed to hold shares or roles in companies like Vodacom, especially when they might rule on cases involving those businesses? How can we rewrite or clarify South Africa's constitution to ensure judges interpret it consistently and fairly, reducing personal bias in rulings?
It is waiting for me, and I'm glad nobody is warming it. We know why I was excluded. Remember what had happened. I came here, I was recommended, I was deployed by my party to the JSC. There was a political debate, right? Those who don't like my face lost the political debate. Having lost the political debate in the National Assembly, they ran to the courts and litigated. The courts found in favor of those who don't like to see my face, right? I'm glad there's nobody who's warming my seat, and as you correctly said, one day I'll go back to the JSC. So what we are doing now, we're appealing against that ruling, because our view is simply this. we have to respect separation of powers. Once Parliament has pronounced it is wrong for the courts to upset that which Parliament has pronounced upon in a democratic process. The courts must respect what is the terrain or the province of Parliament. Parliament must similarly respect the terrain or the province of the judiciary. If anything, my case underscores, it highlights the problems with having a country run by the judiciary. What we have in South Africa, with respect, is no longer a country which is run by the 400 men and women in the National Assembly and 90 men and women in the NCOP. But the courts are now being run by the judiciary. There's a big difference between politicians and judges. As politicians who are elected, each and every one of us here represents 41 seats. We represent 41,000, I beg your pardon, 41,000 people who voted for us. The case is a classic illustration that if you are not careful and you give too much powers to the judiciary will make decisions that would conflict with the interest or the will of the people.
Did you hold that view while you were a judge?
Did I hold that view? Judges are not supposed to hold any political views. I never held any political views. I kept my views to myself. I'll give you an example. I've always believed that the land was stolen from us. I have never verbalized that until it became clear to me that I was on my way out of the judiciary. I kept my views as a judge. For example, there are so many judges who believe in the death sentence. There are judges who believe in the death sentence. I was never one of those. But it is wrong for a judge who is sitting to say, if I had the powers to impose death sentence here, I would have sentenced you to death. It does exactly what I do. So in short, my case and the JSC is a clear illustration. If you give judges an inch, they will take a yard. If you give them a yard, they will take a mile. It clearly illustrates that the Constitution, by having this wonderful Constitution in the world, we have ended up with a situation whereby the judiciary is far more powerful. Finally, on that issue, if you look at events elsewhere, I think it was in the newspapers, it was widely publicized. A lot of countries are aware that the judiciary is powerful and that judges may abuse their powers. In Mexico, for example, this is the first country, it was reported about 5-6 weeks ago, where judges are now being elected. They have moved away from appointing judges. Judges in Mexico are being elected in the same way as politicians are being elected. The reason is plain enough. It's because the whole notion of judicial independence is a myth. Judges are human beings. Judges are human beings. When you put it this way, a completely unambiguous statute is yet to be enacted. So your background, where you are coming from, your position in society, your upbringing, all these things come to the fore when you interpret legislation. Take it from me. I was a judge for 29 years. I know what I'm talking about. So the whole notion of the independence of the judiciary is, at the end of the day, this case of mine illustrates that sometimes you end up with results which are unintended and nobody is talking about it. So we are going to appeal because politically the case illustrates exactly our point. You give judges too much powers, they end up running the country. Judges are not elected in this country, but politicians are elected. I represent 41,000 voters. You also represent 41,000 voters. Judges represent no voters at all. Thank you.
And on the second one, we are saying as a party that we want a state whereby Parliament, because it is the voice of the people, whereby if the people that are in Parliament do some things that are wrong in the eyes of the people, people have got 5 years in which they can vote them out. They can even call for fresh elections. So there's that accountability mechanism. Now, we've got an anomaly in our country by it is the courts that are the final arbiters. Yet, the people that will be held accountable, it is going to be the parties that are in parliament for the decisions that have been taken through the interpretations of the court. So we are saying that there must not be an instance whereby a court will make a certain determination and then instruct Parliament to change the law to suit their interpretation. We want a case whereby Parliament must listen to the views of the people through public hearings and public consultation processes and enact laws that will be the final arbiter, not the constitutional court.
For centuries, Africa's story was written by others, enslavers, colonizers, outsiders who shaped a narrative to control minds and futures. Mainstream media has long painted Africa as broken, helpless, but that's not our truth. We are creators, dreamers, builders, our ancestors forged empires. Today we're shaping the future, our way. It's time to reclaim our narrative, tell our stories, celebrate our victories. Africans must control the pen that writes our future. Rise up, speak out, the world is listening. Africa's story is ours to tell. Let's write it together.
The most important person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs.